G'day guys, Justin here, coming at you with another NBA video. This time I'm going to do a bit of a catch up. Not going to be able to keep up obviously with my day-to-day NBA coverage, so I'm going to go back to what I reverted to last year, which was my NBA Players of the Week. So I'm going to do a bit of a catch-up video here, and here are my NBA Players of the Week for the first 7 weeks of the 2018-2019 season. And amongst this video we'll be talking about Anthony Davis, Kevin Durant, Victor Oladipo and Kawhi Leonard. So opening week, and I'm going from opening night tip-off, just for those who might be a little concerned that it doesn't match up with the leagues week to week. Day one of the NBA season was day one of the first week. So the 16th to the 22nd of October 2018, I had Anthony Davis and the New Orleans Pelicans as the player of the week. 28.5 points, 13 rebounds, 7 assists, 2.5 steals, 2.5 blocks, and 2.5 turnovers. Pretty good numbers there. 63.6 from the field, 100% from deep, and 73.7 from the stripe, leading the Pelicans to a 2-0 record. Opened up against Houston with 32 points, 16 rebounds, 8 assists to go with 3 steals and 3 blocks and only 1 turnover. Good numbers there on both ends of the floor in all facets of the game. 39 and a bit minutes played there. Shot 61.9 from the field and 85.7 from the free throw line. Didn't attempt 3 and got the win. Meanwhile, game 2 versus Sacramento. 25 points, 10 rebounds, 6 assists, 2 steals, 2 blocks, 4 turnovers. Nikola Mirotic had a pretty big game there. However, he did score a lot of his points in garbage time in the fourth quarter. So I did give it to Davis. Again, 25, 10 and 6, 2 steals, 2 blocks on 4 turnovers in just under 27 minutes of play there. 66.7 from the field, 100% from deep, and 2/3 of his free throws. You'd like to see a bit of an improvement there, but got the win, and for me was the standout player of the opening week of the NBA season. Week 2, the 23rd to the 29th of October 2018, was Kevin Durant of the Golden State Warriors. Durant, 29.8 points, 6.8 rebounds, 6.3 assists, 0.8 steals, 0.8 blocks on 2.5 turnovers. Led the league there for that week for me, and led the Warriors to a 4-0 record to start the season. 64.8 from the field, 40.9 from deep, and 94.7 from the stripe. Shooting splits there, great all-around effort, efficiency there. First game of the week versus Washington, 30 points, 8 rebounds, 8 rebounds, 7 assists, a steal and a block on 3 turnovers in 31 and a half minutes of play. 72.2% from the field, made 1/3 of his threes and made all of his free throws in the win. Then versus New York, had a pretty big game there. Actually dragged the Warriors back for a win. 41 points, 9 rebounds, 5 assists on 3 turnovers in just over 3/4 of play there. Shot over 70% from the field, over 50% from deep, and 100 from the stripe in the win. Had a really big offensive game. And as we look at his other 2 games here, versus Brooklyn, 34 points, 8 rebounds, 6 assists, 1 steal and a block on 3 turnovers in 39 minutes of play. Good shooting splits again, 55 from the field, made 1/3 of the deep attempts. Again, Durant's a player who's capable of 50, 40, 90 on the season. And just under 91% from the stripe in the win. And against Chicago, a quiet game nonetheless. This was the infamous Klay Thompson 14-3 game, so you can understand why he sacrificed his numbers there. Had a teammate who was hot. 14 points, 2 rebounds, 7 assists, a steal and a block. Didn't turn the ball over in 28 minutes of play. And shot reasonably well from the field at 55.6%. 100% from the free throw line. However, 25% from the stripe can be excused when you've got a teammate who set the NBA regular season game record for threes made in a game. Week 3, the 30th of October through to the 5th of November, saw Victor Oladipo of the Indiana Pacers as my player of the week. 25.3 points, 9.5 rebounds, 2.8 assists, 1.8 steals, 0.5 blocks with 3 turnovers, and led the Pacers to a 3-1 record. Good shooting splits as well. 47 point scoring splits, I should say. Shooting splits is a bit hard to tell. 3-point shooting is a shooting split. Free throw shooting is a shooting split. If you're just making layups, does it really mean you have a good shooting percentage? 47.4 from the field, pretty good there. 94.4 from the stripe, 30.8 from deep, would like to see improve there. Managed to get the win and was a key factor in all games. Versus New York, 24.6 rebounds and assist, 2 steals and a block. Able to play both ends of the floor on the perimeter, which is something impressive to see in today's league. On 3 turnovers in a bit over 32 minutes of play. 55.6 from the field, 33.3 from deep. However, 50% from the free throw line. Would like to see that improved. And managed to get the win there. Versus Chicago, 25 points, 14 rebounds, 5 assists, 2 steals and a block. Another good all-around performance there. Without a turnover in 35 minutes of play, tremendous game. Excusing the 16.7 from deep, he did shoot 47.4 from the field and 100% from the stripe and got the win. He did his bit where he needed to. And across his other 2 games, versus Boston, 24 points, 12 rebounds, 3 assists, 3 steals and a block. 5 turnovers isn't ideal. And had a bad shooting night, but as you can see, was able to add to other assets of his game. 33.3 from the field, 30.8 from deep. Made it at the foul line, though, and got the win. Again, that's what matters the most. And ironically, in the loss versus Houston, had probably his best all-around shooting game. Managed 28 points, 6 rebounds, 2 assists, and 4 turnovers, unfortunately, on just under 36 minutes of play. However, 52.4 from the field, 36.4 from deep, and 100% from the stripe in the loss. Turnovers proving costly and certainly a lack of defensive numbers. However, was able to get the job done across the other 3 games. And that certainly was enough to quantify him as my player of the week. 6th to the 12th of November, wasn't really a hard choice for me. Anthony Davis of the New Orleans Pelicans, 27.7 points, 16 rebounds, 6.3 assists, 0.7 steals and 2.7 blocks on 3 turnovers, led the Pels to a 3-0 record on the week. 50% from the field, 37.5 from deep, and 85.7 from the stripe. A good all-around game there. Showed his scoring ability, certainly can rebound, certainly can defend. And for those who think he's not a good passer, see the team he plays on, doesn't necessarily need to pass, but certainly the ability, having the ability of players around you to score, having players around you with the ability to score certainly gives you a reason to open up your passing game, and he certainly showed that here. And again, good shooting splits, 50% from the field, 37.5 from deep, able to make a jumper when needed, especially from deep, 85.7 from the stripe. He had many weeks like this last year and got no credit whatsoever. Versus Chicago, 32 points, 15 rebounds, 7 assists, 1 steal and 4 blocks on 4 turnovers. A bit over 37 minutes played there. And good shooting splits, 52.4, good scoring splits I should say, 52.4 from the field, 50% from deep, 57.1 from the stripe. I'd like to see improved. Managed to get the win, but as you can see in his other 2 games versus Phoenix and Toronto, was perfect from the line. Versus Phoenix, 26 points, 13 rebounds and 6 assists to go with 1 steal and 2 blocks on 1 turnover. A little over 3/4 of play played there, and had a pretty terrible shooting night in general. 38.9 from the field, unacceptable. Didn't make a 3, and if you're gonna take them, you got to make them. But 100% from the stripe of the win, did enough to get the result there. And versus Toronto, had a huge game, had his best all-around game for me. 25 points, 20 rebounds, 6 assists, and 2 blocks on 4 turnovers. Just under 40 minutes of play, but 55% from the field, 50% from deep, 100% from the stripe. Got the win, and that's all that matters there. Huge game by Anthony Davis. And ironically, managed to back it up again the following week, the 13th to the 19th of November. Once again, Anthony Davis of the New Orleans Pelicans. Many people are going to say, well, we've watched your MVP video, Justin. Why isn't he there? So team record's a massive factor. It's very rare that a player who doesn't go over 500 wins the MVP. It's also very rare that a player, in fact, it's only happened once, that a player has won the MVP when not making the playoffs. So Davis is going to have to make a push to the 4th seed if he's going to win it. But nonetheless, doesn't mean he wasn't player of the game when his team's having some success. 35.3 points, 11.3 rebounds, 4.8 assists, 1.3 steals and 2 blocks on 1 turnover, leading the Pelicans to a 3-1 record on the week. 52.2 from the field, 33.3 from deep, 85.7 from the stripe. Again, back-to-back weeks. He had many weeks like this last year. Versus Minnesota, 29 points, 11 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 steals and 4 blocks. Didn't have a turnover and still managed to get the loss in under 41 minutes of play. Obviously, shooting under 40% from the field, a big contributing factor. I mean, you can just imagine if he had actually scored efficiently from the field, they probably win that game. 66.7 from deep, 90% from the foul line. Mean his jumper was falling and just wasn't able to get the right amount of buckets at the right time to get the win. But coming out against New York, as you'd expect him to, had a big game. He loves feasting on New York. Go and check Davis's numbers when he's played the Knicks. It's been ridiculous. 43 points, 17 rebounds, 5 assists, a steal, and a block on 2 turnovers on around 40.5 minutes of play. And tremendous scoring splits here. 64% from the field. And 2/3 of his free throws, really not too bad for a big guy. 25% from deep says a lot, but I mean, he's managed 43 points and only made 1 of every 4 attempts from deep. So just imagine if he had that on song. And just imagine if his free throws are on song. Finished the week, he had some more big games versus Denver. 40 points, 8 rebounds, 8 assists, 1 block on almost 38 minutes of play. 50% from the field, 95.2 from the stripe, and didn't make a 3. Again, 40 points and didn't make a 3. Just remember, some people think the guys in the old school who didn't shoot the 3 ball couldn't survive, especially bigs. Anthony Davis manages to get by. And a lot of those guys were actually better players. Well, were better players than Anthony Davis. There's no doubt about it. And rounded off the week versus San Antonio. 29 points, 9 rebounds, 4 assists, 2 steals and 2 blocks on 2 turnovers in 32 minutes of play. Again, had this sort of game without making a 3, but still managed 59.1 from the field and 100% from the stripe in the win. Davis just continues to prove why bigs of previous eras could transfer into today's game. There's no doubt about it. But full credit to Davis. I mean, again, really, when you want to round it, 35, 11, and 5 on 52%. Pretty good going when you look at 1 steal, 2 blocks on the defensive end as well. No doubt about it. Davis cleaning up there. Week of the 20th to the 26th, the second last week I will be talking about in this video here. Kevin Durant, the Golden State Warriors, and it's pretty easy to see why when you look at this. 38 points, 10.5 rebounds, 6.5 assists, 1 steal, 2.5 blocks, 5.8 turnovers, certainly something to be concerned about. And yeah, pretty thankful the fact that he was efficient and beasting on the offensive end to make up for it. 3-1 record despite averaging almost 6 turnovers a game. 52% from the field, pretty good going. 32.1 from deep again. Durant, a capable 50, 40, 90 shooter, and almost 95% from the stripe. Again, 3-1 record, dominant on the offensive end. Versus his old team, OKC, 27 points, 14 rebounds, 3 assists, and 3 blocks to go with those 6 turnovers there. 34, almost 35 minutes of play, and good scoring splits. 50% from the field, 100% from the stripe. 20% from deep, he'd be dirty on himself. And again, they did lose that game. 6 turnovers are huge, not to mention not executing from deep, certainly proving costly. Versus Portland, 32 points, 9 rebounds, 7 assists, 2 steals and 3 blocks. Big game there despite the 6 turnovers in in just over 37.5 minutes of play. But big scoring splits, 61.9 from the field, 40% from deep, 80% from the stripe, not too bad again, capable of the 90%, but you'd accept that from almost any other player in the league. And as we look at his other 2 games here, versus Sacramento, another huge game. And had 7 turnovers in this and still managed to get the win. 44 points, 13 rebounds, 7 assists and 2 blocks in 40 minutes. Good scoring splits again, 50% from the field, 94.1 from the free throw line. Unfortunately, only made 1 of every 4 attempts from deep, but still got the win. And against Orlando, had probably his best game out of all of them. 49 points, 6 rebounds, 49 points, 6 rebounds, 9 assists. 2 steals, 2 blocks on 4 turnovers. You can accept that with the amount of ball in hand he had. 39.5 minutes of play, 48.5 from the field, 40% from deep, 100% from the stripe. No doubt about it. Durant dominated the 20th to the 26th of November this season, and that's why he was my player of the week. Led them to a 3-1 record, and again rounded 38, 11, and 7. 1 steal, 3 blocks, 52% shooting. Dominated on the offensive end. Played well on the defensive end and did enough to get his team a 3-1 record despite turning the ball over, which is a concern for Durant moving forward, but certainly doing enough at this stage. And finally, the most recent week of the NBA season, the 27th of November through to the 3rd of December, I had Kawhi Leonard of the Raptors as my player of the week. 28.8 points, 8.8 rebounds, 3 assists, 1 steal and 1 block, 1.5 turnovers a game, so super efficient there. 53.3 from the field, again, super efficient. 30.8 is starting to have to find that jumper a bit more from outside, but 90% from the stripe and the 3-1 record on the week can't be doubted. Had arguably his worst game in a win, 17 points, 10 rebounds, 5 assists, 2 steals and a block on a turnover in almost 37 minutes of play. 45.5 from the field, 25% from deep, and 2/3 of his free throws in a W. Does say a lot, but he was the standout player. Versus Golden State, 37 points, 8 rebounds, 3 assists. Was outplayed by Durant in this one. I think Durant had 51. But Golden State, 37 points, 8 rebounds, 3 assists, 1 steal, 1 block on a turnover in 44 minutes of play. Arguably his best game, 58.3 from the field, 50% from deep, 100% from the stripe. Again, Kawhi coming back into his element as arguably one of the 3 best players in the league. And finally, as we look here, versus Cleveland, 34 points, 9 rebounds, 2 assists, a steal, and 2 blocks on a turnover. 52.4 from the field, 33.3 from deep, 100% from the stripe in almost 37 minutes of play for the win. And versus Denver, despite the loss, had 27 points, 8 rebounds, 2 assists, and 3 turnovers. Could have had a few more defensive numbers there. Probably his worst defensive game, really, in around 34.5 minutes of play. Worst shooting from 3, really, 14.3%. Really needs to want to lift that. In fact, a real factor, along with his defensive output, as far as getting the result in Denver. But still shot 52.6 from the field and 100% from the free throw line. So again, recounting, we had Kevin Durant, Anthony Davis, Victor Oladipo, and Kawhi Leonard as my players of the week over the first 7 weeks. Again, must be stressed, guys like Oladipo and guys like Davis aren't in based on games played. Injuries are tight, just where they're going to be, especially from an impact standpoint. Oladipo having to get back to it. Someone like a Davis who doesn't have the record. They are factors when it comes to the MVP. And don't worry, once they get the games up, or once their record improves, they'll certainly be in the count. But Kawhi, certainly up there. He's been a big factor in Toronto. Certainly proven to be a more than viable replacement for DeMar DeRozan. And he's coming along nicely there. What can you say about Kevin Durant? He's probably the best basketballer on the planet right now. Anyway, guys, that's from me. Thank you very much for watching the video. Hit that like button. Leave a comment. Let me know who your players of the week were for the first 7 weeks. Anyone I missed, anyone that you thought probably deserves a bit of recognition, and potentially anyone I've overhyped, let me know in the comment section. Most importantly, subscribe to the channel for more updates throughout the season. Not long now, and I'll be releasing my player of the week for week 8. That'll only be a short clip there, but nonetheless something you can pay attention to and have a bit of a look at. Hit me up on Twitter, Justin_J_Bryan. Always got polls going on my player of the week. Always doing throwback threads as far as players. Recently done one on Larry Bird, which I think people will enjoy. Anyway, guys, thank you very much for watching the video. I'll see you next time.